Sometimes it's very, very, very easy to tell when someone is lost. When I lived back in Wisconsin, one of the first jobs I ever had was I worked at the Wisconsin State Fair as an event guide. And my job was very simple. They said, you are going to stand right here. You are going to wear this dark brown mustard yellow shirt. You're going to stand here for 8 hours. And if anyone has a question, you have to answer it. That was my job. 8 hours for about 12 consecutive days. It was terrible. But it was pretty easy for the most part. Most people, they would have some pretty simple questions. They would just be like, hey, where's the bathroom? And I could just point in that direction. Or they would ask me, hey, where are the cream puffs that I've heard about at this state fair? And then I would point them in the other direction. Most of the time, they were just looking for directions from me, and I could navigate that for them. But the part that really stunk about this job is whenever I would have to locate a lost kid with their frantic parents. That happened a lot more than you would ever imagine. Some of those kids, they're very easy to pick out because they're running back and forth, they're crying, they're screaming. It's very clear to say, all right, this is a lost kid, let's try and find them with their parents. Some of the parents are scared out of their minds too, but they tend to hold it down a little bit better. They look up at the signs, they look up, they look a little quizzical, and then they calmly come and talk to me and say, hey, don't be alarmed, but I lost my kid in this gigantic park, and I can't find them. Some people are easier to find that are lost than others. Jesus is really good at doing this in the Gospels, of picking out people that are lost, isn't he? People that seemingly have all sorts of things that are broken and wrong going on in their life. Jesus finds them. He seeks them out. He's even willing to travel to them, go into their house to be able to share the gospel with them. He doesn't wait for an invitation. He just ends up going to these people, whether they want to be found or whether they're hiding. Zacchaeus is not very good at hiding, even though he wants to be. Even though he wants to try and hide from Jesus, but he has to know somewhere in his mind that going up into this tree, he is going to look completely ridiculous, right? He's the short little guy. He's in this fine, slim-fit tunic. He goes up into this tree all because he wants to get a look at Jesus. Look at this celebrity that's coming into Jericho on this afternoon. He should know that a person like himself is going to look completely ridiculous. Luke only gives us 3 details about Zacchaeus. He's a chief tax collector, he's filthy rich, and he's short. The first 2 go together. In the Roman world, how it worked is that whenever you said that you were a tax collector, you were basically saying that you cared about money more than anything else in the world, and that's the only thing that you wanted to accumulate in your life. When we say that Zacchaeus is a chief tax collector, that means that he is the head honcho of the people that were collecting the taxes for the Roman government. And what they would do is essentially they could have convenience fees or finder's fees that they would attach on top of all these taxes that they were collecting from the Roman government. The Roman government would say, hey, we expect this coming out of Judea and this coming out of Caesarea. If you happen to find extra, go ahead and keep it. Guess how much extra Zacchaeus ended up finding in his life? A whole lot. And a whole lot of his other people were able to become filthy rich because of it. So people in his own hometown, people in the place that he called home, they ended up hating him. All the people that worked under him, whether they were Roman, whether they were Jewish, they ended up hating him because he essentially said that he cares about money more than other people. He gets rich off of it. But he's also extremely curious. Because there's something that has to be going on in Zacchaeus' mind that says that I have all of this, I have all this wealth, I have a great social standing, I have a great job, but something isn't adding up that everyone else despises me. And I want to see this person who's coming in to Jericho. Coming all the way outside of our town, he's coming into Jericho. Because maybe he's heard something about the mission, maybe he's heard something in his life that's not making sense, but he's curious. He wants to see Jesus come past. You guys would probably know from all of our gospel readings too, he's been going to Jerusalem. Down from the Mount of Transfiguration, his eyes have been fixed on Jerusalem, and he's been picking up everyone else that he can find on the outside. He's been taking this winding roundabout way towards Jerusalem, picking up everyone that he can to come into the kingdom. He's going after the prostitutes, the lepers, the destitutes. He's talking to them. He's trying to bring them into the kingdom of glory. And now he's coming to Jericho. His popularity has preceded them. There's crowds around him. All the people, the moral majority, the people that would eat out of the palm of his hands, all of these people that love to hear what Jesus has said, they followed him for weeks, months. They're excited to see him. Finally, he's in Jericho. But Jesus isn't looking at any of these people in the crowd in front of him. What he's doing is he's looking for the tiny guy in the fine pressed tunic who's craning his neck to get a glimpse of him. And over the swarms and the dozens of people around him that are clamoring for his name, Jesus says, that's the guy. I want to go to your house. Zacchaeus, come on down immediately. I have to go to your house today. Jesus knows that that's a wild thing to do. It's basically the same thing as asking your IRS agent or the person who just did your taxes, or inviting over your HR rep at your company, or inviting your kid's principal to come over for Thanksgiving dinner. It's just something that you don't do. It's something that it's not a popular thing to do. And Jesus knows that. Jesus knows that what he's doing is against every sort of social norm that they have. But Jesus, as we've seen in the Gospels, he seems to like to hang out with sinners. And to be able to fulfill his mission to seek and to save the lost, what he knows he has to do is he has to go to Zacchaeus' house today, because that's the best chance he's going to hear the gospel. Jesus was excellent at picking out the people that were lost in society. And maybe this one was a little bit easier to tell, right? The chief tax collector, he's filthy rich. He's got all of these other problems that he's got too. Maybe he's an easy one to find. And maybe you guys are taking some hints from Jesus too, that I'm good at picking out the people who are lost in life. I can pick out where in God's law they are not living according to God's will. I can pick out exactly the thing that it says in the Bible that they're not doing. I'm good at picking out that they are lost, and I can tell other people that those guys are lost too. So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? Think for a second of all the people that you know in your life. All the acquaintances, all of the coworkers that you have, all of your neighbors, all of that. Think for yourself just for a second, how many of those people that you interact with on a daily basis are lost? That don't know the grace of Jesus, that don't know that the forgiveness of sins applies to them. What do you do about it? Is it someone that you email back and forth 2, 3, 4 times a week with different contracts or different proposals or different pitch decks or whatever else? Is that person on the other side of that domain, are they lost? Is it someone in your friend group who you cannot wait to hang out with because you can finally let your hair down and you can be the true you? But the topic of faith, that has never come up, and it will never come up because that just makes things awkward. Is it a family member? You can see the actions that they're taking in their life, and it's slowly but surely, it's just pushing them away from the grace and forgiveness of God, and you can see every single thing that they're doing to put themselves deeper and deeper into a pit that they know that they can't get out of, and they know that no one else is going to throw a rope for them. Is it your neighbor who you live next to day by day, but the only time you ever see them are when they come out of their garage and then go back in too? Are those people lost? What do you do about it? Do you know what the mission statement of Peace Lutheran Church is? Anyone know? It's on the back of your bulletin. I printed it for you so we could do this. It's on the back of your bulletin. It's right underneath the Peace logo, right about here. Everyone see it? This has been the mission statement of our church ever since a group of believers decided that they wanted to move their church from Holiday, Florida to a new area called Trinity since 2017. This was the mission statement. This was the mindset of how people wanted to build a church here. What does it say? Peace Lutheran Church's mission is what? To build a Christ-centered community, to grow in God's grace, and tell all people of his love, right? That's what it says. That's been the mission of this church for at least How many years is that? Is that 8, 9 years, right? That has been our mission statement. Does that mission statement match what Jesus is doing for Zacchaeus in verse 10 of our gospel lesson today? Jesus' mission is to seek and save the lost. Does it match? I think it does. As Peace as a church, what we've been doing is, as a large scale, what we do is, part of what we want to do is we put aside a portion of our offering budget, or our operating budget. Every single year, we decide we want to designate a certain amount of money to go and fund other missions, because we care about the gospel message being shared around our country and shared around the rest of the world too. So what we've been doing is we've even made an increase in this these past couple of years. It's around $20,000 to $21,000 that we just give to other missions so that they can help churches like our churches to be able to build churches and share the gospel message with all kinds of people all around the world. And what we've been doing is we've also been funding missions that are taking place worldwide in 49 different countries that are helping to fund 30,000 believers around the world to help them to be able to be trained and to share the gospel with other people. And some of you guys were lucky enough to come this past Saturday to the LWMS rally. We heard about one of those missionaries that we have been helping support with our offerings. Through Academia Cristo, he is able to have contact with, I think they said they had 144 people this week that he's able to share the gospel with. They had 2 million people see some of their Facebook and Google ads this week. It's fantastic. This is one of the ways that we're able to do that with our mission offerings and fulfill this mission statement. We do that as a church too, whenever we invite the community to be able to come, and then we're hoping for the chance every time that we can get to share the gospel message with people. We're doing that with grocery canvassing too, giving one physical need that we can help solve, and then eventually get them to the spiritual need, right? That's part of what we're doing as a church for our mission statement. But Jesus narrows it down even further for us, because you have been connected to the mission that Jesus has set out to do in Luke 19, verse 10. When you had water poured over your head, and you had the name of the triune God said over you, and you were claimed as a child of God. You have been connected to Jesus' mission by his death, life, and resurrection, all by faith, all by grace, only through Christ, only revealed in what the Bible has to say. You, dear Christian, have been connected to this exact same mission that Jesus is doing here in Jericho, here in Trinity, in 2025. How do you go about doing it? Where do you follow in Jesus' mission to seek and to save the lost? I think one of the best people that we can look at on figuring out how we can join Jesus on his mission for this is actually to look at Zacchaeus, this dirty, rotten tax collector. The person that everyone thought that Jesus is absolutely crazy for wanting to go to his house. The best person to look at is Zacchaeus, because immediately we see in verses 8 and 9 and 10, he wants to join Jesus on his mission. That after Jesus had spent some time with Zacchaeus, had been able to go into his home, be able to get to know his situation, to be able to spend some time, build a relationship with Zacchaeus, and I'm sure that Jesus got a way to ask, what's actually going on in your life? And are you happy with what you're doing? Zacchaeus makes 3 big amends. The first thing he wants to do after this is he wants to give. What does it say? He says he stands up and he says, Lord, here and now, I give half my possessions to the poor. Remember the 2 details that Luke cared about Zacchaeus? That he is a tax collector and that he is rich. He has accumulated so much money. He has ripped off so many different people. This guilt that is suddenly building up inside of Zacchaeus, it's motivated by the gospel to say, no, I don't want to be attached to any of these things anymore. If this is going to siphon me off and cut me off from what the gospel has to say and to cut me off from who Jesus is, I don't want any of it. So I'll give half my possessions to the poor. He's not doing it to gain any sort of influence with Jesus. He's not trying to get any sort of special privilege. He just wants to do it because of God's grace. And now it's worked in his life. And because it's all by God's grace, he's not worried about anything else. First thing he does is give, and then the next thing he wants to do is he wants to make amends. He wants to make amends with all the people that he says, if I've possibly wronged anyone, which is basically a confession that you have. And Zacchaeus knows he's wronged a whole lot of people as a tax collector. And he wants to make amends. He says, I want to pay them back personally. I want to do it 4 times more than they ever could. If you start to add up all the facts and figures of what he's saying, Zacchaeus is going to go bankrupt doing this. He's going to go bankrupt giving half of his possessions away to the poor. If he's giving back 4 times the amount that he stole from other people, and he stole from a whole lot of other people, he's not going to financially recover from this. But if it's all based on God's grace, he says, it's worth it. He's motivated by the gospel to make amends. The next thing he does then is he goes and serves Jesus. Scriptures don't tell us exactly how, but church history does. The Bishop of Alexandria, his name was Clement, he mentions in one of his homilies how all the ways that Zacchaeus had been faithfully serving the church afterwards. And eventually we find out from church history that Zacchaeus becomes one of the overseers of the entire region of churches in Caesarea. This guy who was one of the most hated guys in the entire region now becomes one of the people that they identify with service to Jesus. All based on God's grace and only motivated by God's grace. And only motivated by Jesus coming to him. Not just waiting for him to come to the temple, but going out in public, going out into their house, not just waiting for the opportunity that maybe we'll be able to see them around here. No, he went out and saw him. Past all the crowds, past all the people that he saw, despite all the reaction from all the other people that said, Jesus, this is a bad idea if you bring this tax collector in here. If that's what they thought about Jesus going to the tax collector's house, they definitely wouldn't have let him into the synagogue or the temple then. Right? The only opportunity that Jesus had to share the gospel with Zacchaeus was to go to his house, build a relationship with him, find out what's going on, and then that's his chance to share everything that he knows about what he's going to do for them and him in just a couple of days. Because it's a week before Good Friday. And on Good Friday, when Jesus goes to fulfill this mission that he's been going on ever since he was sent into the world, came in as a baby, grew up, tempted in every way that we were, to fulfill God's will, which is that all men be saved. The forgiveness of sins for the whole world. His best chance to do that was to go and talk to him that way. I know that every single one of you has had the Holy Spirit taken a hold of your heart. As your heart and your faith beats in all sorts of different ways in how you give and how you serve at this church. And I know you guys are motivated by what the scriptures have to say to do that exact same thing. And I see it from like verses in 2 Corinthians that say that we are ambassadors for the King, right? We are ambassadors. We have this message of reconciliation, message of forgiveness. We want to be able to share that with other people, right? You guys know what an ambassador does, correct? They're the person that serves on the interests of the person that sent them, right? We have ambassadors in this country for the United States. We have ambassadors to, I think, every single country in the world. And what they do is they do the exact same thing. They communicate the interests of our country with another person. Think about what would happen if an ambassador just simply didn't talk to the place that he was sent to. They had no communication. They had no desire. They had no interest. What do you think would happen? Do you think things would go well or bad? Do you think that they would be interested in what they have to say when they finally start talking? Or do you think that they would just simply brush it off like everyone else had been too? Jesus says that he is coming, and he is coming soon. Eternity is at stake for every single one of us. What's holding you back? What happens if the amount of people that you tell every week about Jesus is 0? What's holding you back? Think about this message that Jesus has given us to speak. We saw it from Micah, right? This is the God who is defined by pardoning grace, forgiving grace. We saw it in Romans too, that while we were still sinners, while we knew that we were so far away from God, what God demands, he still died for us to win us salvation. This totally undeserved love, this undeserved mercy that we could ever get for ourselves, it comes all from Jesus' hand. Do you know anyone in your life who might need that sort of message? Anyone who could possibly need to hear that someone loves them when the rest of the world does not love them back? Jesus didn't just sit and wait. He didn't just pause on the gospel. He said to Zacchaeus, today, salvation has come to this house. I know that there are Zacchaeuses in your life. And I know that you know you're Zacchaeus in life too. What can you do to share this with them? And what's stopping you now? Amen.